In this lesson, we will learn about a routing environment available inside this SolidWorks. Normally, if you want to work inside a routing environment, you need at least one assembly. That's why I just created one assembly file. Inside this assembly file, you have to work with routing. First, we have to activate routing module. So go inside this SolidWorks add-ins. If you don't see this tab, right click on any tab and activate this SolidWorks add-ins. Then go inside this SolidWorks add-ins. From here you can activate SolidWorks routing. Activate it, then it will add 4 more tabs: electrical, piping, tubing and user defined. There are few tools which is partially or fully common in few tabs. As for example, inside this electrical, if you see here, auto route, edit route and route properties, these tools are exactly same inside it, as well as tubing, as well as user defined route, but options will be little bit different than piping or tubing as well as inside this electrical. That's why they created with different icon, but name is exactly same. There is another area we have to work with, this design library. You have to make sure that you have access inside this design library. Inside this design library, there are a few times I will work inside this routing folder, then inside this routing folder, piping, tubing, there are many components are available inside it. So I will spend few more time inside this design library. If you don't see this task pane here, go inside this view, user interface, then select task pane. In this lesson, we will learn what is route component, which is really very important topics to understand. In SolidWorks Design Library, you will find that there are some routing component is already available, but if you want, you can create your custom routing library where you can store all of your routing component inside that library. Normally, routing component is just a normal component which has some routing information. If you check carefully, this component, this is just a normal component and it has feature manager design tree, all feature is showing here. This is just a normal component, but it has some routing information stored inside this part. That's why we are calling this as a route component. The major difference between a normal component and route component is routing point. That routing point is not showing here. If you want to see that, you have to activate that. Go on this heads up toolbar, select this plane visibility off, go to bottom, activate this view routing points. Now here you can see there is a line is showing, zoom in here, and one point is showing. This point is not a normal point. This point is called C point, means connection point. Inside every routing component, you will see this C point. This C point is very important because when you will define any normal component as a routing component, you have to define this C point. This C point stores some routing information. As for example, what type of route? It can be electrical, piping or tubing, or what size of diameter I want to add from this point. All of that information I have to store inside this C point. Right click on this C point and select edit feature. Inside it, you can see what type of route you want. You can define that. Even you can define user defined. Then based on this selection, it will show you some subtype which I will discuss later. Then at bottom, you can also define diameter and few other important information you can define here. Another important thing is you can see there is a line. It has an arrow symbol in it. This means if you add a tube at this point, it will start from this point and it will move to right. This is that direction you have to define at this C point. This is an electrical component and it has just only one C point. Let's take a look inside another routing component called straight T. To check this, activate this view routing point option. And here we are seeing there are 3 C points are showing. That means for every component you can define one or more C points. Now question is why I am adding this C point, why I am storing all of this information. The reason I am storing this information is, let's say I want to add pipe at this point. As soon as I add pipe at this point, it will automatically take the diameter from this C point information and it will create that pipe to right side. That's the reason this C point we have to define. Another advantage is if you want, you can define multi-configuration. Because this is just one component, it can be 10-inch diameter or 2-inch diameter. Let's say I want to change just only diameter. In that case, go inside this configuration and you'll see it has many different type of configurations are available here. As for example, you have a pipe. At the end of the pipe, you have to add this routing component, and let's say that pipe diameter is 2 inch. When you will drag and drop this component at the end of the pipe, it will automatically detect from that pipe that we need 2-inch diameter straight T. In that case, it will automatically detect that is that available inside it. If that is available, then you have to choose that 2-inch diameter straight T. So that's why this configuration is very important. At the middle, you can see there is another point is showing called R point, means route point. Check it from front view. This R point is the intersection of these 3 C point. Let's check it for another component called threaded reducer. Here it has 2 C point and 1 R point. Check it from right side and you can see this C point is joining at this point. This is the intersection. That is called R point. In this lesson, we will learn routing structure in a feature manager design tree. There are 2 routing layout at this moment. I created routing 2 different ways so that you will compare between these 2 and you will understand this routing structure. Inside this first folder, there are a few components here, which is this 2 tank and this base plate and this side plate. Then inside this route layout 1, there is one kind of routing. This is another kind of routing. So go inside this route layout 2. Inside it, there is just only one subassembly. Every time if you create a routing, it will create one subassembly. So I selected this subassembly and you can see this whole thing inside this subassembly. So open this subassembly and here we can see all flanges, elbows and pipes are listed inside the subassembly. Also, SolidWorks will automatically create some folder, which is this components folder. Inside this components folder, it will list all routing component such as this flange and different size of elbows. Now select these route parts. Inside this route parts, it will list pipe segments. Expand it and here you can see all are pipe segments. But here you can see one thing is all pipes segment you are seeing here, all are virtual parts. So if you want to make it an external part, you have to save it as an external part. This is very important feature which is route 1 is showing. Expand it and here there is one case, 3D case. By using this 3D case, we are controlling this route path. So if you want to edit it, you have to edit this 3D case. So all of these 3 important things it will list inside this subassembly. This is one way to route. Now expand this. Inside it, the same thing you can see there is one subassembly which is this subassembly. But here it has 2 more flanges which is starting and end flange which is not listed inside this subassembly. That means this is different than this. Inside this subassembly, we listed everything inside this, but inside this we just listed this routing path and elbows, not end flanges. Let's say in your assembly you want to add all flanges or all end routing component first, then you want to create a routing. In that case, this is the structure you have to follow. First add all flanges first, then start your routing, and inside this routing is still there are some component which is this elbows, different size of elbows. When you will create any routing, you have to understand which way you have to follow to get this kind of structure. You can follow with this or follow with this route layout too. I will show you both way in future lesson so that you will be able to understand what is the exact difference between these two. In this lesson, we will learn how to create routing by using drag and drop method. To create electrical, piping or tubing routing, there is one same tool is available. As for example, go inside this piping tab. The tool name is start by drag and drop. Go inside this tubing, same tool with different icon. Also inside this electrical, same tool with different icon. In this example, I will work with this piping. I will create some routing by using this start by drag and drop. Before I activate this tool, this is very important that you already have some C point inside your assembly, because without C point you cannot activate your routing. So let's see where we have some C point. Go to this heads up toolbar, drop down menu of this plane visibility off, activate this view routing point. Now we can see there are two routing points showing. So I can start route from this point, but I also start routing from this hole also. But there is no connection point available here. So in this situation, I have to drag and drop some component at this point. Then from there I can create my routing, because when I will add some routing component at this hole, that routing component will have at least one C point. So activate this start by drag and drop method. As soon as I activate it, SolidWorks will bring me inside this piping library, inside this routing, which is located inside design library. So go inside this piping, then go to flanges, add this flange called slip on weld flange. Drag and drop to this hole and it will automatically snap to this hole. The reason is this flange has made reference. So release my mouse and here it will show you different configurations which can go with this hole. This hole is 5-inch hole. For this 5-inch hole, you can go with all of these different configuration. But if you want to see all other configuration, select it. It will show you all different type of configuration. But I want to see just only those configuration which is possible to add on this hole. Now select this first one, then press OK. And here you can see there is one C point. Now I can start my routing from here, and inside this properties manager it is showing me route properties. As soon as I bring one component, the next thing SolidWorks will ask me to define route properties, which is very important. First time it looks like there are so many options, but I will discuss all of these options later. Based on your routing type, this route properties will change. Let's say if you use electrical or tubing, this route property will be little bit changed. For now, press OK. Then it will add one small pipe segment at the end of the flange. And I am inside this sketch. From here you can see this icon means I am inside this sketch. This is 3D sketch. So add some line here. I am done. Now at this point, I want to connect this route with this end tank. So in that case, I need one flange at the end of the tank. At this situation, I can add another flange at the end by dragging and dropping. You don't need to close this sketch. This time, add welding neck flange. Drag and drop at the end of the tank and it will snap it here. And I can see there are many configurations that is available, which is listed here. I will go with this first one. I don't need to add more than one, so in that case cancel this. But here one thing is very important. These two C points information or C points properties has to be same if you want to connect these two sketches together. If the diameter assigned in this C point is, let's say 5 and here 6, in that case you cannot add these two. If you want to add these two together, in that case you have to use another routing component such as reducer, which has 2 C point with different value. In that case, you can use that one to connect with this. But in this case, these 2 C points has same value. Now add one more line here. Select these 2 points and connect to these two. And my routing is done, so I can close this case. Also, I will go back to main assembly, so close this sub assembly, which is route sub assembly. And from this feature manager design tree, I can see this is that routing. Inside it, all of this component is listed. Go inside this assembly, which is sub assembly, and inside it one is component folder, which is carrying all flanges and these 2 elbows, which is listed inside it. Then inside this routing part, all pipe segments are available. Also, the major thing is routing path, which is here. You can also change your routing path from here, which is assigned it by using this 3D sketch. So this is one way to drag and drop, and this is the structure you are going to get. In this lesson, we will learn how to create a routing by using Start at Point tool. That tool is available inside Electrical, Piping and Tubing tab. Before I activate this tool, zoom in this area. There is one routing component is showing here, which has a C point. But there is nothing showing here in this hole. I want to create a tubing between these 2 holes. And I want to utilize this routing component C point. And you already know that if you want to create a route, you must need a C point. But I want to create a routing from this hole, not from that hole. So let's see where all of that C points are available. Go to heads up toolbar, go to drop down menu, activate this view routing points, and here you can see there is one routing point which is C point. Here is showing with this routing component, which is this flange. But there is no C point at this hole. In this situation, you have to use Start at Point tool. Activate this tool, and here it is asking me to define a connection point, means C point. This is one additional step. In last lesson, when I created routing, that time SolidWorks did not ask me to create this connection point. The reason is that time I used drag and drop. But this time when I will use Start at Point, SolidWorks assumes that I don't have C point. I have to create C point manually, then I have to create a routing. That's why I have to create this C point, and this is that properties. So inside this connection point means C point, you have to define C point. At this hole, I want to define C point. There are 3 different ways you can define, which is showing here. I will follow the last one. Select a plane and a sketch point. So select this point, which will be listed inside this selection. Select this point, sketch point. Nothing is showing. Now I have to define a direction. To define a direction, select this face, which is a flat plane. Then this is sketch point. Zoom in here. You can see this is that routing. This is the direction is showing. If you feel this direction is wrong, you can change it from this reverse direction button. Check it, it will change the direction, but I will go outside, which is right direction. Also, you can define this route type, what type of route you are going to make. I will go with tube. But another very important thing, which is this parameter diameter. Define this diameter, change this to 5 inch, and then stub length. As soon as I start my routing, it will add some stub length. So as a stub length, I will use 10 inch, then press OK. My connection point is done, and now it is asking me to put all routing properties information. For now, I will not discuss anything here, just go with default, and it will add 10 inch stub length with 5 inch diameter. Now I want to add this C point. Right click on this C point and select Add to Route. This will add this C point in this route. Now add one line between these two. Then close this sketch because my routing is done. And go back to main assembly and check the structure. Here you can see this flange which was exist already, this is not inside this routing now. So this is excluded from this routing. So this is little bit different structure than the last lesson. In last lesson everything was inside the subassembly, but this time I already inserted this route component which is this flange in this main assembly. Then I started this routing, that's why this is excluded from here. So how you are going to make your feature manager tree, that will depend how you are going to start your routing. One more thing I want to mention which I already showed you in last lesson. This C points property is exactly same with the C points properties, means it has 5-inch diameter and also it has 5-inch diameter. That's the reason when you will try to connect between these two, it will connect. Otherwise, if this C point has 4-inch diameter and this has 5-inch diameter, you will not be able to connect. SolidWorks give you warning. So just be careful that this is one important thing you have to keep in mind. In this lesson, I will show you another different approach to create a routing or start a routing. This time, I will add all routing component first, then I will start routing. Maybe you have to add all of those routing component first, then you have to create routing. So in that case, you can follow this step. So first I have to add all of those 3 flanges in this 3 hole. To add this, go inside this design library, go inside this tubing, flanges, and just drag and drop inside this 3 hole. When I will add one flange, SolidWorks will automatically start routing by using these route properties, but I don't want to start now. I just want to add route component for now. So cancel it. Do the same thing again for this bottom hole. Cancel it again. Also do this for this top right hole. Also cancel it. Now all of this 3 route component has been added, which is listed here. Now create routing. To create this routing, I will not use any tool from here like start by drag and drop or start at a point. I have to see those C points. So go to this heads up toolbar, activate this view routing points. It's not showing here. Sometime you have to rebuild it. It is showing all connection points now. Now I just have to start from one connection point, right click on this connection point and select start route. You cannot see it, so I will move it to top. Now right click on C point and select start route. SolidWorks will ask you to add all routing properties here. I will go with default option. Press OK. SolidWorks will add this default stub length. Now I want to add this C point inside this route. So right click on this C point and select add to route. Same thing for this C point also. Right click and select add to route. Now create few more line to connect between these two. Also create another line to connect between this point and this line. My sketch is done, so close this sketch. Also close this sub-assembly, and here we can see that all of these flanges are outside from this sub-assembly. Inside this sub-assembly, this is showing just only all of these tube components. So if you want to add all of your route components first, you have to insert it this way, then you have to add this routing. This way you can keep your full routing completely separate from your routing components. In this lesson, we will learn how to create C point and how to control C point in an assembly inside a routing environment. I want to create a C point on this plate, so first I have to open this plate. I cannot create C point from this assembly. To create the C point, there is a tool for it, which is connection point tool. Go to this tools, routing tools, create connection point. Activate it. There are three different ways you can create your connection point. You can select circular edge, circular face, or any plane and a sketch point. Select a circular edge. It will take center of the circle and it will take direction from this hole. Then you have to specify what type of route you want to make. You can create tube, fabricated pipe, electrical, and user defined it. You can also go with reverse direction. Now clear this section. If you want to create a connection point based on a plane and a sketch point, then go to this hole, select this face and this sketch point. Zoom in here, you can see this will create connection point here. This direction is outside. You can reverse this if you want, and you have to choose your route type. Then next one is parameter, which is diameter. For this connection point you have to specify it. You can manually specify any diameter you want, but this is better to give some standard dimension. Select this select tube. From here we can see that it is selecting one tube, and for that tube there are many different configuration is available. I can go with any different outer dimension with also different wall thickness. If you don't find your desired outer dimension with this wall thickness, in that case you have to add more configuration, or if you want you can create your new tube. I will go with 3.5 OD into 0.3 wall. Then press OK and it will put that 3.5 inch diameter here. Then as a stub length I will go with 10 inch. Then this is another very important thing is minimum straight length. How much minimum length you will consider. Here I will put 1 inch. Then end length adjustment, I will put 1 inch. Also if you want you can put schedule field name, any name if you want you can put that, schedule value and port ID. I will leave all of this blank. Then press OK, and this is my connection point. I will go back to main assembly. Now inside it I will show you another thing. When you will insert any routing component, how to control C point. To show you this, first right click on this routing, select edit route. I want to insert one routing component called cross. Go inside this design library, piping, crosses, then select this straight cross inch. Drag and drop here, it will find proper configuration. Then release my mouse, and there are 4 configuration I can put. I will go with this first one, then press OK. As soon as I insert it here, you can see pipe is attached in every side of this cross. I don't want to insert more components, so cross this, and here I don't want to add this pipe segment for now for this C.4 and C.2. Now how do I control it? Right click any one of these C point, then select edit route C points. There are total 4 C points here. Select C.4 and C.2. These two will be unselected, then press OK. Now it is not showing any pipe segment at C.4 and C.2. Let's say later I change my mind, I want to add pipe segment at C.2. Right click and select Edit Route C Points, then activate by using this option. I have to check this, then press OK, and it will add that pipe segment at C.2.